James sent me this old Daisy red Ryder to see if I could get it to shoot again and to clean it up to make it more presentable. In part 1, I was able to clear an obstruction in the barrel and make it operational. Before I began the disassembly and cleanup, I did some research on what exactly James had found at the yard sale. Daisy began the production of the number 111 Model 40 Red Ryder in 1940. Copper-plated forearm bands were only used from 1940 to early 1942. I think I see some copper. Production was halted during the war, and when production resumed in 1946, the barrel and forearm bands were blued steel and the barrel band was spot welded rather than peened. James's Red Ryder has the copper-plated barrel band and it looks peened. The post-war Red Ryders also had a fixed rear sight, and James's rear sight is adjustable. In 1947, the cast iron cocking lever was replaced by black painted aluminum, and in 1952 the forestock was changed to plastic. For the last 2 years of production, 1953 and 1954, the blued steel was changed to painted steel. Since this Red Ryder appeared to be one of the early production models, making it about 80 years old, I decided to try to keep as much of the original finish as I could. The hardware looked mismatched, and I assumed it had been modified or replaced. The cocking lever screw had a hex nut on one end. The stock screw had no nut and was peened in place. And the trigger pivot had a square nut. The stock came off easily. The trigger return spring was jammed into the wood. I decided to leave it there. The lanyard ring was peened in place. I ground off the peen and pulled it out. The cocking lever came out easily along with the trigger. I wonder how long this guy had been lying in there. I had to tap off the forestock band with a brass rod. In order to remove the spring-loaded plunger assembly, I needed a special tool that would fit around either side of that rectangular block and be able to compress the spring. I modified this barbecue shish kebab thing, hoping it would do the job. I had to compress the spring enough to remove the retaining clip. That was easy. The spring and plunger came out as an assembly. A 12-gauge bore brush was a pretty good fit for cleaning the internals. I wedged open the crack in the stock so I could work in some wood glue. While the stock was clamped up and drying, I went to work on the metal parts. I used steel wool and non-detergent 30-weight oil to carefully rub away the worst of the rust. I was careful not to rub through to bare metal. I was able to reveal the copper finish on the barrel bands. After the glue was dry, I wanted to scrape the old flaky yellowed varnish off of the stock. I used my razor blade and my pocket knife. Then I used steel wool to smooth out the finish. I tried the same process on the forestock. The varnish was actually more of a brown paint. Scraping it off revealed a different wood than the stock. I decided to try some dark walnut stain to darken the wood. I wanted to replace the 3 screws with new hardware. I read that soaking plated hardware in vinegar would remove the plating. I think the vinegar soak did the job. I used Birchwood Casey's Super Blue to make these more closely match the rest of the metal. I also applied some of the bluing solution around the maker's mark. It looked like someone had sanded this area down to bare metal in order to read the markings. Here's all the parts ready for reassembly. My shish kebab spring compression tool did the trick, reinstalling the spring-loaded plunger. I lubricated the leather seal on the plunger with the non-detergent 30 weight. The red Ryder definitely had more power. The BBs went through 2 layers of cardboard with authority. I was able to achieve what I'll call minute of tin can accuracy. I think that's pretty decent for an 80-year-old toy. Here's some before and after footage. I tried to make James's yard sale find more presentable without totally stripping away the original finish and 80 years of history. I ended up cutting threads in the lanyard ring post and fastening it with a hex nut. I think the stock came out really nice with several coats of paste wax. I was bummed that the forestock was made of different wood, but I think staining it helped. The replacement blued screws blend in okay. I wish they didn't have the Phillips slot though. I was pleasantly surprised I was able to bring out the copper plating on the barrel bands. I hope James and his son George like how their Red Ryder turned out. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. James sent me a photo of a target his son George shot. Nice shooting, George.